previously on Pressing Matters.
Put those two parts together and they butt up and nest.
Did you just say butt on YouTube?
Where the blocks nest together.
I have a little miniature iron. It's so cute. I wish it was green, but it's turquoise, I think.
Yes.
And they have this humongous machine, and then they would bring down this press, and they would just this huge metal.
And now, the exciting conclusion.
So let's go back to your sewing room.
Yes.
And you described a station next to your sewing machine. And what does it look like again? It just has a small
Okay, so my
pressing
sewing
mat.
machine is here, and it's a table, okay, that's right, level with my sewing area. And I have it plugged in a different plug than my other one because I don't want to blow a circuit. But anyway, and it is the size of my mat. It's about the size of this table right here. And so the mat covers the whole thing, and then my clapper sits here, and my iron sits here. And when I'm when I'm pressing a little seam, I just use my pressing station right there by my sewing machine. I'm not up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. I would be so tired by the end of the day, I wouldn't be able to function.
I do have the ability to create a small pressing station next to my sewing machine if I want to. As a matter of fact, this table, which is just your general folding table,
works perfect, really.
Well, I have a thing that fits on top of it that I'll show you later that has an ironing surface. It's just a board covered in a very thin.
Because the heat will go through this and mess up the top of a surface if you don't have enough cushion underneath it.
So I've got something that I can put on top of this little table that makes it an ironing surface that I can put right next to it.
Actually, I don't even press. I only press with my I just mainly use the wool pressing mat to lay my iron on, because I use my clapper because I'm opening seams at my sew machine. I'm just doing little blocks or 12 and a half
So
inch
you're just
blocks.
Doing the seams.
I'm just doing the seams here at my sewing machine.
So you can move on to the next step.
Right, and the next step would be...
you can't sew two units together until you've pressed the seam.
Right. So that's what I'm mostly doing at my sewing machine, is just pressing as I'm sewing. And then when I start putting the blocks together, that's when I move over to my big pressing surface. So
now, something that's super, super important if you're going to use a wool pressing mat. Some amount of heat will pass through the fibers of the wool mat. So it kind of goes without saying, don't have your cutting mat underneath.
Right.
Because heat on your cutting mat is a no-no.
Exactly.
Never put it like in your car and leave it there on a hot day or whatever, because it'll warp.
Right.
So you do not want to iron anywhere near, even with a wool, whatever, the 1 inch, the 3/4 inch thickness of that, the heat will still go through and will ruin whatever.
Exactly.
Now on a wooden table, I've never really found any problem whatsoever. Yeah. But it just, you need to know.
Yeah.
Before we leave the wool pressing mat, I spray with water, but occasionally when I have wrinkles or whatever, I'll use Best Press, which is a starch alternative or flatter. Do you spray any of that while your block or whatever is on your wool pressing mat? Are you worried about that getting into the fibers of the mat, or do you it's just not an issue?
I don't use any of that.
So you don't spray with water?
I don't.
So you never use any steam, any water, any Best Press?
Not when I'm making the block. Not while I'm at my sewing machine and I am actually constructing. I don't.
Neither do I. But I mean,
when I walk over to my other machine, my other pressing surface, my big pressing surface, again, I'm blessed. I have a steam unit. I don't have an iron. It looks like an iron, but all the water is in a tank.
Yes, I've seen that.
And then the water goes through this cord and through my iron or my pressing unit. And then I put it back, and there's no water that collects in my iron. It is a steam unit.
And you're not using wool at that point.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But I'm only using steam. I'm not using any chemical.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
So where you're using wool, you're not...
So when I make my final block, and I've got 12 or 16 or however many go in the quilt, and I've got them all made, then I go over to my big pressing unit, and then I steam them. I steam the whole block. And I have a wooden block that I can put on them.
Yes. And I don't have one yet, but I've seen them.
Yeah, they're awesome.
You
can just get a cutting board. You can just get a cutting board.
Yeah, but it's nice.
It is nice.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I guess is why I desire one.
Yeah.
But they're like the size of your block, and it's like
Correct.
a clapper. But
Correct.
it is a clapper, but it's the size of your block, and it will press.
And because it has steam, of course, the moisture is going to go into my mat. Okay, and some will go into the wooden block, but it's wood, and
it's been finished,
and it's fine. So I've never had it split or anything. I don't know what kind of wood it's made out of. A hardwood, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And so that's how I do it. And I'm a very firm believer that pressing is a third of what makes your block successful.
Absoluto.
Yeah.
But let's circle back. So you never use like best press for anything?
No.
Oh, I do. I guess I don't use it very much. I do use it when I have real stubborn wrinkle, like when I'm initially pressing fabric and stuff.
If you had a steam machine, you wouldn't have to do that, because I'm talking steam. I'm talking
like a steam bath.
Yeah, I'm talking. It does. It goes like.
Does it fog up your glasses?
It does. It really does. It does.
Then that's steam, baby.
Yeah. It's a lot of steam. It's for the big job. So
well, maybe I'll put that on my
Christmas list.
Christmas wish
Yeah,
list.
maybe she will.
Because that would be fun.
It is nice. It's very nice. I've had mine probably about 6 years now. And I still have it, where, what you said earlier is so true. If you have water in your iron, and I don't care if you're faithful about emptying it after you've used it, it is not good for an iron to have water in it. Yeah. I know that's how they work. So if I was going to have an iron that I was going to use steam in, I'd buy me one of those $20 irons from Walmart, and you're going to have to replace it every year or so, just because that's the way it is. If you're going to have water in your iron,
you just don't want to really.
Yeah.
If you've got especially if you've invested in a nice iron, you just don't want to. Rust it from the inside.
Right. And our water here in Indiana is very, very hard.
Yes, it is. And we have a water softener here in the house, but it doesn't matter.
Well, and water softener's got all that salt in it, and so that eats up the heating element in the iron.
The calcium. So
it's a no-win.
It's a no-win. And it's just something we have to live with here in Indiana. That's the home of limestone.
Yeah.
We just have hard water.
Right.
So maybe it's okay where you are, and maybe having water in your iron is fine. But around here,
our experience has not been good.
No, it's like if you want to kill an iron, that's how you do it.
That's exactly.
Let's talk about the process.
There's more to talk about?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how long have we been talking?
About the process of pressing. I mean, we have hinted, I think, but I don't know if we've said for sure.
Okay.
But the pressing is this, and ironing is that. So
there's no moving. The iron is not moving on the fabric when you're pressing. Mm-hmm. Okay. When you're ironing out a wrinkle, like let's say you're ironing a garment, or you're ironing your fabric, because when it comes off the bolt, it's got that really sharp fold through the middle of it. Mm-hmm. Yes, then you would iron. I mostly press because I have my steam station, but ironing is a natural desire, I guess, is what I would
know.
say. It's just
It's like it's instinctive.
It's instinctive, exactly, to iron that out. And that's fine. But once you start cutting it up and sewing it, you don't want to distort it, okay? When it gets to be littler, it gets to be more flexible and more opportunities to get it out of shape because the fibers aren't that long once you cut it. You know, when you've got it in a great big piece that's 45 by however many yards you've bought, you know, it's got a lot of strength. But when you start cutting it and the fibers get smaller and shorter in length, more opportunity for it to move. So ironing at the beginning, when you're ironing the fabric because it's full of wrinkles,
Iron.
well, iron is fine.
But if
you're
ironing...
starting to cut it and you want to make your block, ironing is a no-no and pressing is the way to go.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, is that kind of poetic? That was kind of poetic, wasn't it?
Maybe we could cross-stitch that into a pillow.
Okay. Let's say it again. Ironing is no.
No.
Pressing is a go.
Is a go.
Except for we're ironing. We're ironing as we're saying pressing.
You were doing it, so I did it too. Oh my God. Okay. Again.
Ironing is
a no.
Pressing is a go.
Oh, help us.
See why it's so much more fun to do things with a friend? Yeah, it's nice to have a neighborhood of friends that you can sew with.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, when I don't know if you bothered to do this or not, but when I'm going to press a seam, I set my seam first. Do you
I don't
do
because
that?
I'm pressing open. If I were going to press to one side, yes, I would. But no, now that I press open and I use my clapper, my seam is already set because I've set it with my finger.
Well, you might. One thing that I do like about...
Oh, she's going to teach me something.
One thing I do like, and it's probably from my pressing to the side days, but one thing that I like about setting your seam, and what that is before you do anything, pressing it to the side or pressing it open or whatever, you press down on the seam, along the seam.
To soften the seam.
And what that does, yes,
Soften
it relaxes the fibers and it gets them to kind of meld. So your top threads and your bottom threads kind of meld a little bit more together. Then when you do the next step, which whether that's pressing open or pressing to the side, you have a stronger seam, I believe. So I do take that minute to do that.
Do you?
But Dawn does not, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's why it's all individual.
It's a neighborhood of. It takes a village of people. And we all do our things, but but I like to do it because I think it does strengthen my seam a little bit and also gets the fibers prepared for the next step, which is pressing open or to the side, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I
interesting.
Yeah, I did not know whether you did that or not.
No, I don't.
Let me show you how to press to one side, and then I'll show you how to press open. When you're pressing to one side, the first thing you need to do is set your seam. So that just means putting your iron on top of the seam and letting the warmth of the iron meld those fibers and the stitches together. Then I take and decide which side I'm going to press towards, and in this case towards the dark. So I will finger press first, like that. Then I take the nose of my iron and I start gently pushing or nudging the seam over. And notice how I'm using the nose of my iron to push the front part of the seam and then the side of my iron to keep it going in that direction. Then I slide over and I wait for a moment to really press that seam, warm it up. And then I will take my clapper and rest it on that seam. That helps. As it's cooling, the pressure of the clapper will keep the seam in place. I will typically flip it over to the other side and press. And again, finish off with the clapper. Now, let's see what happens if you want to press open. I like to use my clapper. The top part of it is rounded, which helps gently open the seams. So I just place the block unit on top of my little clapper. And again, I will kind of finger press a bit. I will open it with my finger, and I will open it ahead of the iron with this finger. So I open it a little, and I'm using the nose right on that center there. And the roundness of the clapper will do its job and push that open. And as needed with this finger, I am opening the rest of the seam. And then as the iron completely covers this seam, I rest it there for a minute, and then I will put the clapper on top of it. I will typically press the back side of the seam as well. Just put your iron down on top. And then clap. And that's it. Now let's talk about 4 of them together, 4 half square triangles together. And here I'm pressing to this side. The only problem is, as you can see, which side you want to press towards. Well, let's say I'm just going to press to that side. So again, I will set my seam. Following the same procedure as before, I'll finger press. And then I will use the nose of my iron to start gently pushing that seam in the direction I want it to go. Again, I'm using the clapper to help maintain the pressure on that seam as it cools. And then from the front side, you can press again on that front side. Now you will notice that this produces a lot of bulk here in the center, which is one reason why I like to press open. But something you can do here is you can spin your seams. And this is a little hot right now, but okay. To spin my seams, I'm trying to get into that intersection there so I can break a few threads. So I slip my fingers as close to that intersection as possible, and I just twist, and that breaks the threads in the center. And then what I want to do is I want to press one up and the other down, and then I push with my finger. Now I'm going to come in. So I've finger pressed one side down and the other side up and up. So didn't know if I finger pressed it enough. But the center will kind of look like a miniature pinwheel when we get done here. See if we can see it. I don't know if you can quite see it, but there. This part's up, this part's down, and then the center is very, very flat because the seams are all going in different, in a kind of a pinwheel direction, spinning direction. So this is called spinning your seams. And as you can see, it lets you really see the points, and it flattens the center of that seam. So if you are a person who presses to the side, when you've got an intersection like this of 4 things coming together and lots of bulk, make sure you spin your seam. So you just work your fingers into that intersection, gently twist to break the threads, and then you push this side up, this side down, and you will get a beautiful seam. Now let's take a look at pressing open with that same unit. So all of these half square triangles have been pressed open. So to press that center seam, there's nothing really new there. I start to finger press just a little bit, open that seam. I'm going to let my iron do the rest of the work. The nose of the iron will help open that seam there at that bulky intersection. And the clapper is really great, again, because it's rounded. There we go. And clap that. And that seam is, oh, it's just so flat. This whole block is so flat when you do it. So that's those. Now, something else I want to show you. When you have anything with a point, like they have square triangles or something like this, you want to preserve that point, obviously. And the easiest way to do that is to press away from the point. If you're not pressing open, I press open. But if you're pressing to one side, the fabric naturally wants to go away from that point. So this is how you do it. You just press towards that side, and you'll get that point. If you press this direction, granted I have white here, so I probably wouldn't be pressing, but let's say that was dark and this was light, I still necessarily wouldn't want to press that way, because that's just going to try to chop that little point off just a tiny bit, and it just, first of all, it doesn't really want to go that way, but even if I do it, it wants to take that little point off just a tiny bit, and so that's a trick. Anytime you want to get a nice sharp point, press away from it or press open.
Let's talk about tools, because we kind of talked a little bit about tools, but there's a lot of tools that we need to discuss.
A lot of tools out there to help you press.
Yeah.
One thing I can think of are those things you put over your fingers for heat, because I am using a very powerful steam, and the steam is very hot. They do make just to let you know, $2,000 ironing pressing surfaces that steam with cool steam, and the steam comes from the bottom of the ironing board and from the top. It's totally amazing. But $2,000, a little bit out of my
Ting ting,
yeah,
ting ting,
yeah.
But
But
not
some
even
people,
thinking
some people are more blessed than we are. So
yeah, but you go for it.
Yeah, go for it. So those hot fingers. sometimes are good to have, especially if you're pressing.
Especially tiny seams.
Right, and when you're pressing open, you've got your finger right up there near all that steam or near the heat,
the iron.
near the heat, and so those they do come in handy sometimes.
Yeah. And they're like, I think they're made of silicone or whatever.
Yeah.
So
those things that pot holders are made of now.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, but
so they cover your fingers and protect it from the heat.
Right.
And
right.
And
have you ever used them?
no, I have not, but I've seen them in our stores. So
yeah.
I should check those out.
Right.
I have thought, because I have burned the tip of my fingers, because you're exactly like Dawn just said. You're using your finger to kind of gently open the seam as you're pressing. And sometimes the iron gets just a little closer to your finger than you need it to, and you might I will occasionally burn my finger just a little bit, but I bet those. So
that's a good tool. That's
pressing,
kind of an additional thing.
What
to
are they
have
called
around.
again? Just pressing fingers?
I have no idea.
Or hot?
I don't know. You can find them
fingers?
like where the glue guns are.
Oh, okay.
Because they're kind of like that,
Yeah, because that's another reason.
Yeah.
Every time I think of glue gun, I think of burnt fingers.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
exactly.
Show me a person who's used a glue gun.
And
they're missing a finger.
Yeah. Or a fingerprint, at least.
It's been burned off.
Yes. Yeah. So another tool that I brought with me today that I seem to really enjoy using, especially if you're hemming or you're doing applique. These are called Press Perfect. They're a Clover product. They're by Joan Hawkey, and they come in two different variations. And what it is it's a thin piece of heat resistance
material.
Mystery stuff. Yeah, mystery stuff.
Maybe there's ingredients on the back. I don't
Maybe
know.
Ingredients. You're so funny. She must like to cook. Do you like to cook?
I do.
Oh, bleh. I like to eat. So see how good we get along?
So Grubhub, is that your friend?
No. So anyway, this one is just straight, and then this one has all kinds of angles and curves.
Yeah.
So this one would be more for the applique. But what I have found, those of you who put labels on your quilts, this is kind of the bee's knees. Now, I brought a little sample here. I made this project bag, and after I got it done, it was all this pink was across the front, and I liked this fabric.
I do too.
And I thought, why didn't I make that panel with that fun fabric instead of this big nothing of pink? So I decided, after I'd already made this, that I wanted a patch or a label or whatever you want to call this. I call it a patch of that green fabric on the front. So I cut it out, and I cut it out a 1/2 inch bigger than what I wanted it to the actual size to be. And I laid it down, and with the face of the fabric on the surface and the back of the fabric up to me, I laid this down, and you can see it has increments on it. So there's a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. So I laid it down, and I brought the fabric over till it matched that 1/2 inch, and I pressed. And so I pressed this side, and then I pressed this side, and then I came back and I pressed this side, and that put all my seams, my raw edges underneath. And then I just, because it was already made, I couldn't take it to my sew machine and sew it down. I just blind hem stitched it right on there. And if I had done it before I had constructed the bag, of course I could have just taken my sew machine and top stitched it on, and that would have been a lot easier. But since I had already had it made, this tool came in so handy to get those edges. So anytime you're doing an applique, and it's just something small, it's not a big applique project, these things are just the greatest things. And if you're going to put a label on the back of your quilt, you just fold those edges under, get rid of the raw edges, and top stitch it down. A hem of a pants.
I know. I think this was originally designed for helping you hem things.
Yeah.
But there's
little
a lot
dresses.
of ways to use it in quilting.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, to turn edges on applique. especially, you know, where there's a curve, if you have a curved piece of applique.
Yeah.
So that you don't have raw edges, or for your quilt labels.
I just taught a Dresden plate class.
A little patch on your elbow.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But you know how you put that circle in the middle of your Dresden plate?
Oh, yes, yes.
So this curve would make it so nice to be able to press
To
under.
press that circle part,
Under.
which is applique,
Yeah.
in the center of a Dresden plate.
So yeah.
And so that's perfect for that.
Yeah. So I find that these, I don't use them every day, of course, but they're nice to have. They're not very expensive at all. They're made by Clover, and again, they're called this. Can you see that? So, and on the back, it tells a lot of different ways in a lot of different languages, to tell you the truth, how to use these. So I find that's a fun aid to have near my, and you know, I keep all my stuff for my pressing near my pressing station.
Yeah, so do I. So do I.
So that I don't have to go hunting for it. So like my pressing, what about an applique pressing sheet? Do you ever use an applique pressing sheet?
Funny you should ask.
Okay.
Because I was just about to mention it.
Okay.
So we've talked about wool pressing mats. We've talked about clappers. We've talked about the Press Perfect, which helps you with your labels and stuff. If you do any kind of fusible applique, and fusible means you're ironing a kind of a glue to the back of your fabric, and then you're ironing that fabric with the glue on the back down to a background, and that fuses it or glues it together.
Right.
And then you have to stitch it down because it's not a permanent, I find that you need to finish the edge. Anyway, to protect your iron and to protect your ironing surface, you use something like this. This is basically like a Teflon sheet. So it
Like you would bake cookies on it.
I wouldn't, and then use it with fabric.
No, not a different one, silly. A different one for
I tell you,
cooking.
I'm literal.
Yes,
So
she
is. She says, and I'm like,
You'd have a set in the kitchen. And you'd have a set in the kitchen, and then you'd have a set in your sewing room.
So it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's thinner than the silk pads that you find.
Yeah, I know, but I was just
for cooking. But it is made of silicone, and they're called either a pressing sheet or applique sheet. And I have several because I will use one. I will put one down on my pressing surface.
Yeah, who wants to get gooey glue on your wool?
Oh,
Matt,
no. No, no.
You want to protect
and then to protect my iron, if I feel like I need to, typically I'm not appliquing something where I feel like the glue is going to be exposed to the iron. But if I do, I can use another pressing sheet between what I'm pressing and the iron so that nothing will get on the iron.
I do wool applique. And so when I have my designs traced on my fusible, you know, one side is glue, one side is just a plain piece of paper that I draw my designs on. And before I cut them completely out, I'll rough cut them and then I'll lay them down on my wool. And so sometimes a little bit of that.
Oh, because you're rough cutting.
Yeah, I'm rough cutting, and a little bit of that will hang off. And if I were to just go to my iron and press that down, it would either go, if the glue part is on facing my mat, it would glue on my mat. And if it was facing my iron, it would put glue on my iron. So obviously this is the best solution.
It totally protects. I think as far as because I rough cut too, but I think it depends on the kind of fusible you're using, whether it will hang out or not. And
well, it depends upon if your piece is bigger than your cutout or if it's smaller than your cutout.
Anyway, if you feel like you need to protect your iron, definitely a second pressing mat or applique sheet will be great.
Right.
A
lot of people use just muslin. I have several pieces of muslin because I teach, so I travel and I didn't want to buy 100 of these.
Well, yeah,
oh,
I've got
look
this
at you.
kind of thing.
And I take a marker.
This is what I call a pressing cloth.
Yeah, pressing cloth.
And a pressing cloth is great when you're pressing your, say, applique.
Obviously, she's not pressed this very much.
If you want to, I picked the cleanest one.
Yeah.
Honey. I know, like it's got a hole.
Yeah.
I've used it a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, it will protect like if you're going to press the front of your applique, a block, you can protect it a little bit with this from the iron so
Right.
it won't scorch anything.
Right.
But
I take magic marker and I just write pressing cloth across the bottom.
so
Well, so that if
you wake up one day and forget your name,
if I wake up one day and need a piece of muslin,
Oh.
or I'm not cutting up my pressing cloth
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
to use.
Well, I keep it in a different area than the muslin.
well.
So. Okay, I talked about the fact that I like to occasionally spray with water because I don't have a $2,000 steam engine ironing station.
Sorry,
But she's blessed.
I am blessed.
She's very blessed. Anyway, so there's lots of different spray bottles that you can get. You can
Yeah, but
get,
this one's extra pretty.
Yeah, you can get this one. I will link to in the video. I got it from Amazon. What I like about it is it was originally designed for hairstylists.
Yeah.
So it produces a mist. You just press it once, and
Look at that.
there was this beautiful, gentle.
I feel like I'm being exfoliated.
Give yourself a facial. But I buy a couple because they will wear out or whatever, you know.
And they're very
The
inexpensive.
little trigger mechanism of any mister you get is gonna break at some point. But just buy a couple and you'll find that they will produce a nice thin mist of water on your not soaking wet. We don't want to get it soaking wet. And then you can press.
And why wouldn't we want to get it soaking wet?
Well, I don't pre-wash, and so
don't pre-wash either.
if you have not pre-washed and you get your fabrics wet, when they dry, they're going to shrink a little, and then they won't match the shrink rate of your other fabrics that you didn't get all wet. So because I don't pre-wash, I don't want to get anything completely soaked,
right.
because I don't want it to shrink.
Exactly.
And I suppose that's another topic we'll cover
talk about
why we when you should pre-wash, why we don't pre-wash.
My mom pre-washed everything.
Yeah, and so that's okay. Let's see what else I got over here. Oh, I've got an iron.
Oh, can I show my baby iron too?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Please. Now this sucker is not an expensive iron.
Did you just call your iron a sucker?
Saka.
Okay.
It is a Rowenta. I do happen to like that particular brand. It is not an expensive type of iron, but because I don't keep any water in it, I've had my iron forever. Mm-hmm. I keep irons going for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's show the difference.
Yeah, there's a baby, and here's the big mama.
Oh, the mama and the baby.
But look, you would like mine because
it's green. It is green.
This is her
they
favorite
now
color.
Make this one in green.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
I bet you're gonna pass that on to somebody
maybe
else, aren't you?
Maybe I will.
A friend,
maybe,
and then buy a green one.
Somebody in the neighborhood, maybe. Anyway, this is the one that sits at my sewing machine when I'm doing my seams.
And what I like about this is it's got a big enough, even though it's a small iron, it's got enough heft.
Yes.
It's got a big enough surface where it will actually press something.
And
I had a little dinky iron at one point, which all it did was burn my fingers.
Yeah.
It didn't press anything.
Yeah, you want
There
something
wasn't
that has
enough
some
heat.
weight to it. Everybody says, oh, this one's so light and weight. Well, pressing takes some weight.
Yeah.
Okay? So you want some weight, but I also like this nice
It has
point.
I noticed that.
Because I'm
Because you're trying to press
an
open.
1/8 inch seam allowance
And that,
takes some.
the nose of your iron, we should probably talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah.
The nose of your iron is a very important thing to use to help press open. So we'll show you in a little bit of video how to use the nose of your iron to kind of nose the seam open.
Right.
And also, if you're pressing to the side, you can use the nose to nudge that seam over. Or I actually use like about this part, from the tip to the if I was going to press to the side, I'd use just a little bit of that front part.
It has been so long since I've pressed to one side that I wouldn't even be able probably to demonstrate that. You're going to have to do that.
I think
okay.
we'll be doing that.
Okay.
But we've got the mama and we got the baby.
Yeah. And they both do different things. I mean, they both press, obviously. But you wouldn't press an entire a king size quilt with this. That would be impractical.
You
I mean, if it's all
could.
you had, yeah, if it's all you had, but that would be if you have a standard iron, it's much better.
The small iron is something extra that you can buy if you would like to be able to set up a small pressing station near your sewing machine. Wonderful to bring on retreats.
Right, that's what I was just going to say.
Because
that.
at retreats, there's usually 1 or 2 ironing stations, and they're always full.
Yeah.
Typically the second day, because everybody brings things that they're cutting,
right,
and then they get to the actual pressing part,
right,
later on the second day, and it seems like you can never get to the pressing station, or later in the first day.
That reminds me, now that we're talking about retreats and stuff, do you have a pressing finger or a pressing, I don't know what else they would call them, but sometimes they're wooden and sometimes they're plastic.
Yeah, they call them wood irons or whatever, but yes, it's just this.
Or a roller. Sometimes they even have rollers.
Oh, and those are nice especially for foundation paper piecing.
Right.
Yeah, where you have to press your seams between each thing. What we're talking about is kind of like a little wooden iron substitute that helps you finger
I didn't bring
press.
one today, but if you've got one upstairs, you can maybe bring it down with the tools.
Yeah, it helps you finger press a seam without having to get up and iron it.
It just holds the seam open long enough for you to make another seam.
to sew 2 things together.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you don't want to set up an ironing station next to your sewing machine, you could having one of these little. I get the name escapes me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a
we'll
little
just call it a wooden
tool.
iron thing.
Yeah,
or
little. You'll show some, right?
Yeah.
She'll show some.
I will
later.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
But iron care.
Iron care. That's important.
What do you do to take care of your iron?
Nothing.
Besides unplug it when you're not in use.
That's not true.
And then not keeping water in it.
Right.
But you do. I know you do.
I do. I definitely do keep my surface clean. You know, if I should happen to, and I don't very often because I use all the precautions, get glue or starch or something. That's just why I don't even use any of that stuff, because I don't want my iron to get gunked up. Mm-hmm. But keeping this part of your iron, the plate, the sole plate, clean is super duper important. Yeah. If it starts rusting or have any damage on it, I wouldn't use it.
No,
okay?
Because that's going to transfer onto your fabric at the least desirable moment, in the least desirable space.
Exactly.
So we're talking like, white or some place that's highly visible. That's when that rust or whatever it is that's gunk on your iron is going to come off. So it's just, you don't want to do that.
Right. Then the other place where dirt collects, little fibers of cotton or whatever fabric you're using, but we're mostly using cotton, collects right here between the sole plate and the body of the iron. It collects there. Yeah. And so I have a paintbrush that has nylon fibers, or what I really prefer and I use most is a hog bristle brush. They're very cheap. It's called a China bristle. You can get it in the paint department at Lowe's or Walmart or any place, and it's a white hair, and most of the time they're flat, and that's what I use, because if my iron should be a little bit hot, if I use a synthetic, it'll melt it. Mm-hmm. But the hog bristle is actually hog hair.
And how often do you clean the side groove of
every
your iron?
day?
Okay, so every time she uses
it. But I
it.
sew every day. So
every time you use it, then
at the beginning, at the beginning of your day, that you when you plug your iron in or you turn it on, you just grab that brush and do this. Because have you ever steamed and a bunch of brown stuff comes out? That's where that comes from, is that groove right there.
I didn't know that. I thought it was coming from the holes.
I know, but it sucks it up from right here and pushes it out the holes. It's not gathering in the holes, because you're always pushing steam out the holes. It's not coming from the holes, because nothing's going in the holes. It's always coming out. It's going in from here. It's getting sucked up into the bottom where the water tank is, and then it's dispersing it through the holes. So that's why you want to keep that clean. I always dust my iron.
It's called a hog
hog bristle, or
Bristle.
China bristle.
Or China
brush.
bristle brush.
Yeah, should have brought one with me, but
Yeah.
didn't. So
And
sorry about
at
that.
your local.
Yeah, just
hardware
the
store.
hardware store in the paint department. And they're very cheap, like, 99 cents for a big one. So, yeah, pretty cheap.
And keep it by your iron and keep it
Yes,
clean.
keep
And,
it clean.
here's a tip, which I'm sure you know, but if you do accidentally get some fusible or something on your plate of your iron, take a used dryer sheet, and your iron needs to be warm but not hot. So what I do is, after I've been ironing and it's on cotton setting, so it's hot, and then I've gotten something on it, I will unplug it, go down to my laundry room, grab a used iron sheet, and then just wad it up and just take it, go right over the surface, and it will just cleans it perfectly. I know you can buy products that are called iron cleaners,
Right.
but you don't
don't really
you just
need to.
need that. It's just, that's all you need.
And if it's a really tough to get off, you can sprinkle salt on your clothing sheet, dryer sheet, on your dryer sheet, and the salt will act as an agent, abrasive agent, and will help clean if it's a tough spot.
Again, we're both fairly protective of things, but occasionally something will escape me and will get on the iron, and that's how you get it off.
Or you loan your iron to a friend, and you know how it goes. It's a neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a neighborhood, and it takes all kinds. People don't know how to press.
I'm gonna put my baby away.
Oh, and look at that. It comes with its own little
its own little trivet.
Yeah, keep it safe.
Yeah. So it's got its own little carrying case. I had to buy it separate, but still nice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, isn't it nice? Goes right in there. Then this slips right in here.
That is very nice.
Yeah. So when you take it to retreat, it's all safe. If you should drop it, it's safe, protected. It's called a GW case.
There you go.
But it popped up when I
when you bought that?
No, when I looked up irons.
Oh.
When I looked up miniature irons. I always like to investigate before I purchase something. I always like to investigate what the Consumer Report says about it. And
we are so twins. So do I.
Yeah, I like to, and what the rating is. And you go to Amazon, you get 50 different brands, and then you can see what people are saying about them.
I may initially select something on Amazon based on the rating, but I will actually go and read some of the.
Oh, I read them.
Not that like the. I will occasionally read the 0 or 1 star ones, but a lot of times that's just people that didn't know what the heck they were buying and they bought the wrong thing.
Right.
But if you read like the 3s,
right,
the 2s or the 3s, those are people who have legitimate problems with the product, and they'll tell you exactly what it is and why. And granted, there's people paid. I hope you realize there's people paid who earn a living by putting ratings on stuff on Amazon, which is why they say verified. Verified means Amazon knows that you actually purchased the product. Oh yeah. So come on. I've just broken her little tiny innocent world. But if you read the ones, you can tell which ones are kind of not bot written.
Obviously, you've not been on Facebook much, because everything on Facebook is true, said Abraham Lincoln.
He had a birthday the other day. It came across my Facebook feed.
And
happy birthday!
See, Facebook knows his birthday, and so
it knows everything about you.
It knows everything. So there you go.
Including your birthday and Abraham Lincoln's
I
birthday.
really did not know that they paid people to.
Oh yeah, and I'm not sure if they can do that so much now, because Amazon, as a result, instigated this thing that says verified buyer, which means you actually purchased that product from Amazon, so they know you own it, and therefore your comments have some credence. And if you're not
they're
verified,
not paying them to make good comments.
No, but back in the day, companies would pay people to go and leave good comments on their products. Yeah. I know.
So
so you have to be just a little. But anyway, so I do tend to I do research just like you.
Yeah, I like to research
before I buy something and make sure that it's legit.
Yep.
Legit.
Yep.
So, do you have any show and tell to show?
I don't.
Okay.
I brought my, my bag. That's the only really thing that I brought to show because
Well, why don't you hold it up again? And
Okay.
Let's take a look at that bag,
Alrighty.
because that was very pretty.
I loved it. It's I do a lot of cross stitch, and so it holds one of my cross stitch
It's a
projects.
project bag.
It works with vinyl, so you got to be careful when you're pressing with vinyl. You don't want to melt your vinyl. And zippers, it takes a different kind of pressing to work with a zipper. So yeah, there's different ways of doing things, and our way is not the only way or the rule. Our way is not the rule. Is it the rule? No, it's not the rule. No, you can do it however you want.
We are not the quilt police. We should have made that very clear.
What
from
if we
the
got
start.
some police uniforms?
I don't want to be the quilt police. I don't want to be judgmental.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not who we really are.
No, it's
but
not.
but we could pretend we could have little caps
hats.
and say now the quilt police would
Yeah.
say blah
Yeah.
blah blah. You
Yeah.
know, the quilt police would tell you to always press to one side because
There
your
you go.
seams will nest.
But we don't say that.
And we just we go with the flow.
Yeah. We're going to share with you what we do. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And
Try it.
And
If
you
you don't
be
like
you.
Yeah.
And we be us.
We be the neighborhood.
We be the neighborhood.
All of us.
So I think that may be all that we can say about pressing.
I can't think of any more pressing matters to talk about.
Well, we're going to press on.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the next episode. And make sure you subscribe so that you can get notified when the next episode goes up. And we'll see you.
How do they do that? How do they do that subscribe thing?
Well, you got to click that subscribe button. If you're listening to this just in audio, there'll be a subscribe button in your player, your either Spotify or iTunes or whatever it is you're using to, or Pandora, whatever you're using to listen to the podcast. If it's on YouTube and you're watching the video, then there's a subscribe button just above the video. So just make sure you click that.
Now, is there a thing that goes like that? A thumbs up thing?
There is a thumbs up.
We like the thumbs up, don't we?
We do like the thumbs up, and we like comments too.
Yes.
So
Be kind because our hearts are very tender.
But yeah, if you have a question on the video, you can comment below. And
What if they had suggestions on some topics they want us to talk about?
Wouldn't that be
awesome?
fun?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from our neighbors.
Yeah, we
on
would.
whatever you would like to talk about.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And we'll just meet and
It has to relate to quilting. I mean, don't ask us how to cook a, 5-course meal, because Jennifer would be doing it by herself, not me.
Be doing it solo.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, it has to be about quilting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you're watching the video, then there's obviously on YouTube, there's a place to comment. So please feel free to do that. And we will love to hear what you want to hear from us.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in a couple weeks. So see you in the neighborhood.
Bye.
Bye.